Saigon, April 29, 1975. North Vietnamese forces begin their final attack on the city. 19-year-old son Michael Pham, his parents, and 4 siblings are in grave danger.
My father is a high-ranking officer in the military, and he's in charge of the Saigon port. And he worked with Americans, it's the same as my mother. She worked for an American company based in Saigon. Our life would be in imminent danger if we stay.
Huddling around America's Armed Forces radio, they hear the secret code to evacuate.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
It was White Christmas, and it followed by the announcement that it is 105 degrees in Saigon, and the heat is rising. And when we heard the song and the announcement, we knew that it was time to go.
Son's father has an escape plan in place, a fully provisioned tugboat waiting at the harbor. First, though, the family has to get there. Son's youngest brother is a polio victim.
My brother had to be strapped to my back because he couldn't walk, and we worked very hard to make sure that we're not separated during the chaos.
Paint a picture for me of what Saigon was like that day.
A lot of gunshots firing up in the air. There's just jets above us, explosions within the city. It was just a madhouse everywhere around the city.
What happened when you got down to the harbor?
Our boat was taken.
It been stolen?
Stolen.
There was a plan B, get to the U.S. Embassy for air evacuation. But getting through the chaotic crowds now made that impossible. So Son's family turned to Plan C, head for a prearranged meeting place for a sea evacuation with other American sympathizers.
By the time we got to the pier, the last tugboat left, and so that whole seaway evacuation was over at that time when we arrived there.
The family is now out of options, but 2 large cargo ships are in port for repairs.
Some people just, out of desperation, climb up in the ships, and out of desperation, we did the same thing. Believe it or not, but after a little while, the ship just packed with people, and next thing you know is, the rope got taken off, and the engine got fired up, and later on, we found out that was the ship next to the very last ship that left the port of Saigon at the very end of the evacuation and the fall of Saigon.
Son's family managed to survive 2 weeks at sea with only rainwater to drink. The ship eventually made it to a U.S. naval base in the Philippines. The Phams were sent to resettlement camps, first in Guam and then to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. In Chicago, Catholic Charities offered to sponsor them. So that's where these refugees began their new life in the USA.
And Chicago's a good place to get yourself ready for America. It's a tough city, and we were tough people.
Son got an education, became a successful hotel developer, and moved to Seattle in 1988. Then, in 1999, son Michael Pham decided to return to Vietnam. It was a risk, not knowing if he'd be jailed upon arrival because he'd fled the country. That didn't happen, but he was forever changed, finding his homeland racked by crippling poverty.
The very first trip was very difficult, but then it was the beginning of another chapter in my life. But then one thing that touched me the most, the children. It just happened on that trip that I was able to visit 2 orphanages. And I saw the kind of disabilities they have and the lack of things to take care of them in those places. And then I walk out and I go back to my hotel that I have running water and I have electricity and I have a television and I have food to eat and all that. And, well, it didn't take that long to remind me that that's how we were in 1975 when we left and we came to America. We didn't have anything, and other people help us. So it's just like a cycle that went around, and I say, well, now that we have something, we can do something for other people.
So Son came back and started his own nonprofit called Kids Without Borders.
The idea of Kids Without Borders and our mission is involve and inspire youth in service worldwide.
This storage space in Sammamish is KWB's international headquarters. The all-volunteer organization doesn't invest in offices or fancy brochures. It simply teaches youth how to give back to those in need. Even the small ways are important, like collecting books, clothing, and toys.
Medium starts like 8 to 10.
Today, these young volunteers are helping to sort donated clothing. About 70% of KWB's work is local. A big part of it, helping immigrants like Sun was years ago.
And we work with so many immigrants and refugees here, and they went through the same thing I went through 40 years ago. He was born with web hands, but in this picture, you see he has fingers because we helped and he got surgery.
The other 30% of the work happens all over the world, the bulk of it, though, in Vietnam. Sun leads big groups there every year.
We've been able to arrange volunteers from around the world to be able to spend time there and use their skills and their talents to help the orphanages. You know, everything from nurses and physical therapists, we arrange for them. They come from different parts of the world and they spend 2 weeks there or a month there helping the orphanage and training the orphanage staff and working with the children.
I know, look at these, how cute.
Katrina Doan traveled to Vietnam on one of Sun's Humanitours a few years ago. She watched the orphans go wild when Sun showed up.
Uncle Sun, and they come running. They know who he is, they know he cares about them, and it's just sheer joy. Just that kid joy, unbridled, run, jump on him, big hugs. Sun just has the ability to see the needs and quietly find a way to meet them.
I travel to Vietnam about 3 times a year, so that's our vacation now.
Sun has become a respected community leader in Seattle with his hands in all sorts of service organizations. He even helped design the Vietnam exhibit at the Wing Luke Museum.
This flag was flown in Washington, D.C. in my honor of the day that I became a U.S. citizen.
He has also received international recognition for his global outreach, building schools and water systems, providing clothing, education, medical care, and more. But his greatest contribution is simply giving love.
So those small acts of kindness go a long, long, long way.
Sun will never forget the generous American welcome his family received 40 years ago. He's now come full circle by sharing and showing others the joy of giving back.
That's how we change our community and our world.